All right, guys, we're gonna get started again. The Zoom link on the bottom, follow it at the top. There'll be a good link at the top. Again, register before you join the Zoom. Otherwise, you're not gonna get registered, and I'm not gonna be able to see your guys' name afterwards to send you the stuff afterwards. I'm gonna try to keep it under an hour, guys. Still trying to pack as much of information into it as possible. Give you guys as much value as possible of the pains and the history I've gone through the real estate industry. So let's get started. My promise to you guys today, I can show you how to unlock real estate equity without banks, lenders, to do renovations with equity invoice contracts. This may be new to everyone. I know it is because it just came out in 2024. We're going to dive right into it and exactly pinpoint why the 100% financing in the industry today obviously isn't 100%, and why this is an actual true 100% way to do renovations and to build wealth in real estate. So I want to be clear, the real estate investing strategies I share with you today are for contractors, homeowners, investors, agents, wholesalers, businesses with property, accountants, consultants, anyone that wants to play the monopoly game in the real world. And this applies to all of the real estate industry, no matter what player you are in the game. And I know this myself because I grew up in these industries since childhood, which included being a contractor at the age of 7, being a United States Marine at the age of 18, and then getting into real estate investing at the age of 21, and then much more after that. So I know this works from experience, not theory. A man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an opinion. There's a difference between knowledge and intelligence, and the only gap in between those is the experience. So with that being said, let's begin. This is why we're here today. Equity invoice contracts or home equity invoice agreements. Very similar to HELOCs, very, very, very updated, and very similar to home equity agreements, yet without the banks and lenders holding the contracts. So first things first, for those of you who do know me, I want to address the elephant in the room. Am I just here to sell you guys something? Because it's only been a half of a year since starting this journey, and I've only made available the contract itself. And guess what? It's only been up for $1. So I can't tell you that answer right now, but what I can tell you is that you're going to have to stay to the end to find out. And at the end of the presentation, we will be exporting the list of every single attendee to this event on the Zoom. Again, find the Zoom link and click the registration. Register before you click on the live link. Right now, there's a disconnect between sending out the emails for the link. So register first, click on the link at the top. It'll get you registered. So I have you on that list after this. Yet, and I'm not going to pull that list until the end of the presentation. So stay till the end of the presentation, and we're going to screenshot that at the end of it. To give you this special project that I've been mapping for 3 decades. And I can't tell you what it is yet. You'll find out in a moment. But what I can tell you is it's more than a gift card and less than a Tesla. And every single person here live attending, registered on the Zoom, is going to get it for free. And you will be the only people who get one. Again, that live attendee list at the end of this. And I did it this way, so next time I say be there live, it'll be worth it. Anyone here not will believe me that I give proof and I keep my promises. And to the same degree, as we dive into here, don't expect you to take my word for how good the opportunity is I am about to share with you. I want to prove it to you. So let me explain. When I see stuff like this, it bothers me. Invest in real estate with no money. How to invest in real estate with no money. 0% financing in real estate. Trust me, I've been there, and not by choice. It irks me because it's like selling a pipe dream just to get you to act. And it may not be acting on whatever their current sell and offer is, but just to get you to engage and give them attention. Or the other side where you got a person repackaging common sense. Flipping real estate with your cash won't matter. Of course, it's investing, it's asset based. You should walk away if you're going to talk the talk. In fact, I'd argue the walk is the only talk that matters. And so a lot of what I do is somewhat meta, meaning I'm trying to show and tell you at the same time. For example, my first identity and profession answered my question, how do I build real estate? It demonstrated the concept it outlined. Hard work gets the job done, aka building. My second identity answered my second life question, how do I train myself? It demonstrated the concept it outlined. Structured, abstract pain and motivation could drive anyone to do action in any environment. My third identity answered my life question, how do I build wealth in real estate and not just build the buildings? This demonstrated the concept that outlined it. Wealth is in real estate. My life's journey demonstrated the concept this is going to outline. It takes work to build, it takes good structure to accomplish anything, and wealth is in the real estate. So I can feel confident saying that my life's work became its own proof. Real estate wealth is built on good structure. And you can see all these famous people here that have the same thing. And a real good one is McDonald's right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not a hamburger business. My business is real estate. And this is the secret that I'm going to crack open for everyone. If you know what you're doing, you don't need a lot of time. You just need to know the right stuff the right way. But knowing what to do is the hardest part. Again, which is why I dedicated my life to this mission. This mission is revolutionizing real estate by standardizing construction quality, paving the path for contractors' wealth, and giving homeowners the keys to equity. And I'm going to do my darnest to live up to that ideal for you guys today. So I'm going to deliver to two types of people today. The first one is help yourself. For the people who need to put their oxygen mask on and take care of themselves and their family. I promise you that I will help you get closer to that today for free, period. So you're going to want to stay until the end because I'm going to deliver on that big time. Number two, help others. For those that are in the position to pay it forward, I'm going to show you how it's in your best self-interest to help everyone in the game. And if you decide to join me on this mission, I'll show you how we can accomplish both of our missions together. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to save you. Life isn't a bedtime story. The cavalry isn't coming. You're it. So you got to learn this stuff, period. No one else. Now that we got that out of the way, who here would like to start to grow the real estate weight faster than it currently is with the current structures that we have? Great. Otherwise, this would be a very short presentation, guys. So rather than talk about it, all the ways that we could grow it, and all the current creative financing, structures, tools in the current industry, I want to take the reverse approach. How could we guarantee you'd shrink or never grow to begin with? Answer, don't put any work to build your wealth. If you aren't going to put in any hard work, I can tell you that this magic does not happen. And if no work is put in, we can be pretty sure wealth cannot be built, no matter what structure you have to leverage with it. We laugh, but sometimes you are doing this right now with your current tools. Those other guys with the 100% financing, they're not wrong, yet it's not easy. So let's assume you already own real estate. The what? The faster you can collect more of the real estate, do you build more wealth? Yes or no? Yes. So here's a writer downer. All else being equal today, when you double your real estate, you double your wealth. Sometimes it's just that simple. There's a reason these guys keep telling you to get as much real estate as you can and as fast as you can. They had enough wealth already to start building their real estate wealth, so it was pretty easy for them. And that's great for them, but what if you're in the reverse situation when you have no other wealth or leverage to use to buy or to build real estate with? Then you need a system or a structure to collect real estate for you. In other words, you need to build equity. Bottom line, Equity is important because it is the only abstract wealth in real estate, not a physical liability. Write this down. But there's another huge reason equity is so important in real estate wealth. If you only have equity, motivation, and no liabilities, the pain, it gives you sustainable structure to build unlimited wealth with. If you have all the motivation and no pain, it gives you a sustainable structure to build unlimited wealth with. As much as I could keep hitting this point, I figure I might as well give you a sneak peek of what's inside this training. So I'm going to show you one of the lessons. And again, we've had some technical trainings today. I can't click on that button for you guys. Our tech training currently is going to send an email out within the next, hopefully, hour. We'll see. If we can and have time, we'll loop back up to this and get you guys a sneak peek of actually what's inside this training. So here's what we're going to do instead. In our short time together that we have, I'm going to share a few breakthrough experiences, the walk, I had when learning the easiest way to build real estate wealth. And then you get the lessons without any of the scars. Give you guys a bunch of money-making stuff. Invite you guys to join me on my mission of real estate wealth accessible to everyone. And get out of your way so you can tear the wrapping paper and dig into your life's work. Cool? Great. So here's a visual of the players in the game. We got a contractor, a homeowner, an investor, and a WealthTradie master. That's it. Let's keep it simple. Let's start with the first way to build equity, the one I knew. The contractor's path to wealth. Here's how I learned it. So here I am, a free child labor worker, workhorse, because I like to build things. Instead of picking up toys, for some reason I wanted to pick up a nail gun, but lacked the experience and knowledge to negotiate and to convert that value into something usable for myself. Hence the child labor part. Never being paid a dollar, yet getting paid in knowledge and training in school. And we're about to see if that pays off. And if I ever was not to be valued, it wasn't going to be from a lack of my efforts and my hard work. So as growing up, this taught me stoicism for a kid. Yet I still saw and experienced my dad's struggles, never building wealth, no matter the different pricing and the negotiations to express to convert that kind of knowledge and hard work. I first thought, why aren't contractors getting paid like the artists if the higher prices are supposed to be based on the quality? And if a contractor is a skilled trade that is highly dependent on that skill and that quality, where's the mix match here? The premise was simple. The sale of the house, the value of the house, was built by the hard work of contractors, the real hard physical work, and determined by the quality of that work. So they should get a piece of that pie. And this would standardize the real pricing to the real quality of the work. And that was a great idea, except there was no way to do it securely. And me, being a teenager, who was I to be? Eventually, I wanted to make this a real business for others to adopt. But I was the only teenager not only knowing what I wanted to do after high school, let alone knowing anything about actual business at the time. And this was during DSL times, back when Microsoft Paint was out. This is what I wanted to be. Even though every day I was with my dad swinging hammers, I wanted to be a race car driver. Yet nothing having a solution at any of the time saved me from that career. And I didn't enjoy and got into my next character in life because I didn't want to stay a contractor. So this is where I bridged to how I used it for equity invoice contracts. The cool part about hard work is that no matter how unsuccessful you are, you still are building something. You can fail 100 times, and it's not that you haven't built something, you've built failure, and that failure is valuable. I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. For example, here are some of the things we wouldn't have today if others didn't value hard work. WD-40 took 40 attempts to get the formula right to have it in an aerosol lubricant. Without it, we wouldn't have it. Bubble wrap was first invented in 1957, and it took until 1968 for it to finally be used as shipping packaging material as we use today. Over 10 years it took for bubble wrap, invention, thought, idea, structure to be eventually usable and adopted by our society. And there's many stories like this. Apple, Nintendo, Dyson. Imagine if these guys failed because they hit the point where they were unsuccessful and they gave up. It took over 3 decades of a single person experience to bring you guys home equity contract structure. From that young age of 7, of wanting to change this pricing and change the disconnect between contractors' hard work and the value of the actual property, this is how long this has been stewing and brewing as a life form. And that's how I created it. 12 to 14 hour days nonstop since May this year, cramming 3 decades of experience into half a year's of workload, valuing hard work and paving the pathways for contractors to get paid their true value for the quality they provide. And there it is, the first screenshot when the final thought came through that tied every piece of this together, stamping into history that, hey, this is our mark in this world. So whether you're starting your first job to wealth, your first business to wealth, your first property to wealth, it often starts the same way, with hard work. And the best part is that you can start using it the moment you get off this presentation in this live event today. And that's how I used it and built it into equity invoice contracts. And that's also how you can use it today. Equity invoice contracts leverages contractors' existing hard work to not just be paid out in heavily tax inflated cash, but in capital gains and properties that appreciate the equity. We don't want cash, we want equity. Whether that's the same value that we're going to value it at, or whether we're going to adjust it. The main thing is getting rid of the cash and getting the equity. So let's talk about the second player of this game, the homeowner. So here's the homeowner's path to wealth, the walk. And here's how I learned it. Now, after I had just made it back to the States from living in community bathrooms in Japan, of course, I wanted freedom. So it wasn't very hard after my agent went through the VA mortgage structures that we currently have. I ended up with my first house. And unlike before, I now had a structure to leverage the value of my hard work. So I started building wealth real estate. Although I was piecing it along as I went, I searched for any money I could get my hands on for materials. Still scared of the credit card history world. I had $0 in savings. There was credit cards that I kind of barely knew. Home equity lines of credit got introduced to me after I became a homeowner, which again, at the time, I had a risk whether the appraisal was going to come in high enough from when I just had recently purchased for me to actually pull out any money or cash for renovations. Or then I had construction loans or even personal loans, which come with high interest. So those were my options to renovate my property, to leverage the hard work I could put into it for real wealth and done by myself. So I funded $8,000 in materials on credit cards. Luckily, I did credit card hacking where I got 0% for a year and a half. And then I think I made about $800 between the different cards that I used and whatnot. So I got about 10% extra for materials. So from the industry structures and hard work over the next 5 years, they saved me many times that I cannot count. Those real estate assets and structures that I was able to leverage my hard work into after scrambling around capital and finding some way to put the other half in there. I had the work. I just need the extra capital, even though my properties may or may not have had equity in them at the time. So you can see here's 2 of the properties I had purchased when I was in the Marine Corps. And these were my first 2 properties as a homeowner. Learning the different structures, the game allowed me to leverage equity through real estate and travel the world. Without it, I wouldn't be able to go to Australia. Without it, I wouldn't have been able to go to Egypt. And it's not cheap taking your 2 dogs there to Australia and then back. Experiencing this wealth that different real estate structures provided saved me from a life I didn't want and gave me the confidence to invest in real estate full time. Meaning after the Marine Corps, I had moved, me and my 2 dogs all the way over to Australia for college, and eventually decided, hey, college really isn't my fit. And I had already had a taste of the game. So I decided I'm going to dive into this stuff full time. Now, what I didn't know is that I had unknowingly stumbled into a structure in the game already industrialized, which was fix and flips and hard money. The other structure in the game that I could have used at the time to try to leverage my equity beyond what I had currently purchased it at, meaning that the renovations I was about to put into it, that value and extra equity I was about to put into it, I could have actually pulled out beforehand instead of needing to do it afterhand. And everyone I had talked to in the real estate mortgage world, the HELOC world, the credit card world, the finance advisory world had not let me know at all about this. It wasn't until I got to Australia and my other veteran buddy had thrown me on to the good old bigger pockets. And then I had figured out the Burr method. From the Burr method, it just snowballed into all the different strategies and creative financing techniques that you can use in the game. For now, though, we're going to stay focused on the homeowner's path to wealth. And that's how I learned it, through equity. I knew I needed to put my hard work into that structure somehow, and that I needed that equity so that I could pull it out. So here's how I used it for equity invoice contract. So over the next 8 years, using the game's current industry lendings, hard money and creative financing, and any other strategy you can find on Bigger Pockets, I stuck with fix and flipping. And as we use the same structure currently controlled by the private hedge funds that underwrite them, it's currently a 70-30 rule, which just means, hey, 70% is my max cost of this project, and I need to keep 30% equity margins in my property at all times. So my purchase and my rehab needs to be under 70% of my value of the property. And I need to always keep a 30% margin in there. And that resulted in leveraging cash plus hard work for equity. It took my homeowner basic push equity and then refinance to the next level, where now I can not only just put in my hard work for extra equity, I amplified it with leveraging cash to build that equity. So here's the craziest thing. If you were to pay for that amount of equity today at straight conventional, just purchase it, it normally is 10% of the purchase price. Again, you'll find 100% hard money lenders. If you're in a rough time or in a chasing season, and these guys have seasons, up and downs of flippers getting in the market and flippers getting out of the market. I think we'll show you in the slide here later those numbers. 10% is about your general average. So to do this, you would need 10% leveraging cash of the purchase of the property you want, all your hard work that you're going to need to put into it, and then you get left with extra equity. The issue, though, is you're limited on that cash. So it's unsustainable and it cannot be scaled. Currently, the only scalable model in fix and flip is education. And then at that point, you're educating and you're an educator, not a fix and flip real estate investor anymore. But that is how powerful it was still for me at that time. And I finally realized what structure had the most leverage in the game. And here's a little example just to get the concept of leverage to you. I cannot say that name, so I'm not going to say it. Archimedes, give me the lever long enough and the fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world. The fulcrum meaning the structures that you can put your hard work into to leverage, which at the time was the lender's contracts, the bank's contracts. It allowed me to take a little 0 to 10% of capital and leverage it to 100% of a property. So that's how I used it for equity invoice contracts, as a structure to leverage your hard work at the most maximum sustainable way. And here's where you can use it today. So the fact that I have used all types of financing then and have built real estate wealth is why I can tell you now is that when it worked then, it works now. And although the terms may change over the times and the seasons, of hedge funds going from 70-30 rule to 75-25 rule because they're trying to market to get more flippers to buy their product so that they can sit on their butt and use their structure to put less hard work in to leverage for more wealth. So the structure and the fundamental remains the same in the game. Hard work plus the lending contract as your fulcrum leverage point equaled real estate wealth. So you can do this in tiny amounts or huge amounts. It works the same. Again, it's limited on your capital and your hard work that you can use to leverage. So from one property a year to 300 plus property years, it works the same. And here are some examples of the financing structures like the hard money I was using today. We have the hard money, which is a type of loan that is secured by the real estate property and is used as a leverage point. You have home equity lines of credit, another financing asset to leverage your equity and structure, hopefully go around and build more wealth with it. If you're using it for other things, probably not a good reason to actually pull that out. Home equity lines of credit started back, I believe, in the 80s. They've been around for almost 40 years. Within the last 6 to 8 years, I believe, home equity agreements have been the updated version of HELOCs, which took away the high interest fees and took away the monthly payments. And you were left with a home equity agreement. Yet, just like a HELOC, you could take that money out and you can go spend it wherever and anywhere else, except using it to specifically leverage your wealth and equity. And then you had what I originally started with, credit cards, another financing structure that I was able to use to leverage 0% funding, meaning that, hey, I got 0% funding. I used my credit to leverage, not to forget, the easiest, cheapest, and the most valuable structure of them all, equity invoice agreements. And this is new, only 6 months old, which does not have the high 2 to 6 origination fees, the long third-party approval times with whatever underwritings you need, the stringent asset-based underwriting requirements out of your control and in the lender's hands, your capped equity leverages, your credit checks and your credit reports, your cash liquidity requirements. So that's how I used it to structure equity invoice contracts. I took all the bugs and the pains and the current structures and I updated it with our current need and pains in the industry and the game. So here's where you can use it today, which brings us to our third player of the game, investors. Same as homeowners, a little bit different. The investor's path to wealth was when I started on that hard money side, yet I was still doing it on a homeowner as a social security number. So here's how I learned an actual investor, full-time real estate professional path to wealth. So let's get back to my story. Once I had a taste of the real estate wealth as a homeowner, I wanted more. Noticing a recurring theme here. And this was when I left Australia and decided to drop out of college, move back to the States, pay for all my dogs to get reshipped back out and re-quarantined and hold 10, 9, 10 yards, 20 yards with Australia to start a real estate investing business. And this was the first business, Now and Bold LLC. We focused first on just fix and flipping investing using hard money. And this was our first investment property in the numbers. After completing one successful business flip, I was convinced I could singly do the same thing at least 3 times at the same time. Meaning that I knew my boundaries of my hard work limits, that I knew that, hey, I could put at least this much hard work and leverage it for 3 properties at once. So right before starting, I remember spreading all the hype about passive real estate flipping. You know, the ones you saw before. 100% real estate financing, 0% down. What does that all sound like? Like I could scale it to the moon. Yet, I found myself saying the same thing. You can flip properties from anywhere. You don't need cash or credit. Everything's asset-based. A high schooler could do this. Riches are made in real estate. That one was true. So I believed my own hype a little too much, and wanting as much wealth as fast as possible, I tried to replicate the other industry structures of building a fix and flips business at scale. It's not hard. Figure out what the good guys and professionals are doing, and you figure out how to replicate and model it. If you'll notice it, this whole presentation is the same thing. Leave it in the chat if you can figure out whose presentation this is. So I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted a scalable real estate business. And it was only education and consulting, like you see these guys do, that was the scalable way. Because this education was their funnel into needing more capital. This was their machine and structure to fix their limit on their capital that they could use to leverage for real estate wealth. That last 5 minutes, this will be replayed and it will be sent out on all the platforms. Replay that last 5 minutes and think of it in their perspective on the level that they're playing this game. I learned what communication really meant while learning to do with business with friends and family. That little word that everyone thinks that a high schooler knows. So here, I was freaking out that everyone else's issues were my fault because they didn't put in the hard work to build the properties, which again, it takes hard work to build the wealth. And here's part of the story that most of you probably don't know. I was supposed to have an equal partner on the first property. 2 weeks into renovating the property, after all the issues and the trials and the first of everything, figuring out which hard money business company wasn't a scam, sending out credit card, maxing out credit cards and hoping they're not a scam. 2 weeks into after finally battling that battle, we started the renovations. And I get this message. Hey, my wife is having social legal issues at school and I need to go support her in person. So despite all the help we needed on a very low renovation budget to get this project started, obviously I said, take care of your family, brother. Over the next course of the next 4 months of the project though, I didn't receive his help renovating the project pretty much at all. But I did receive help from another partner, thankfully. Then when the project was finished, something unexpected happened. My partner, longtime high school friend, expected his half of the wealth without putting up any of the hard work. And somehow, the other partner who picked up his slack, that was given his share because he put in the hard work, still turned around and blamed me for doing something wrong. Communications, not such an easy thing. So I had a lot of communication skills to learn. And this is where I found Tony Robbins. And please, if you guys don't know this man, there's a Netflix documentary. Start there. You'll jump into ages and ages, histories and histories of knowledge packed into as much dense footage for you guys to consume, to learn what communications really is. So here I am, a young, unbreakable motivator, offering to consult my partners on properties for only 10% equity, while providing the lenders, the guarantor on the lending, the business insurance, the knowledge, the roadmap, the current structures, everything except the hard work, the task that needed to get done. And despite all of this happening, as a pandemic is starting to sweep the globe, it still worked. And there's the two properties that was the first two properties I consulted on for 10%. And funny enough, that 10% I had asked for was still perceived as too much. I'm not blaming anyone else. This is a skill that I was deficient on of communication for this whole story or narrative to be able to blossom instead of being able to communicate properly to not let that happen. So for the next properties, I stuck with my natural talents and with choosing the linear scaling module of just doing more. Instead of trying to amplify the current structure of renovation financing, the scaling issue, getting into the educating, mentoring model, the current only scalable, learning I didn't have the skills to do that, I stepped back down. So for the next properties, I just did them by myself without trying to consult other people. And then we did more and more, which eventually really struck in. Learning how to repeatedly flip properties allowed me to experience the industry structures without partners, without much capital, without exponential scaling structures, starting from no capital multiple times. And if I had not learned it repeatedly, I would have not seen this. If you look at this, you'll see the difference between the lender's profit and our profit, the people actually putting in the hard work. The lender puts in very, very little work. He uses his money structure, his lending contract to leverage to get as much equity of properties. As you can see, almost half and half of these properties, and putting very little work into it. So truly, if I had not repeatedly thrown hard work into these game structures, repeatedly after still dropping back down to zero again and again, I would have never perceived this game's pattern. Simply put, learning to continue to value hard work in every industry structure gave me the ability to perceive and see where and what had the most leverage in the game, which was those lenders' contracts. They put in the least amount of effort for the most reward. And just like that, I learned the investor's current path to wealth. Contracts. That was their fulcrum. That was their structure that they used to leverage whatever hard work they had for their equity, aka a structure that converts hard work into equity. So that was the investor's path to wealth. Again, a home flipper has to put in a lot of work, and he gets a taste of that investment. As you can see with the numbers over a time, that taste gets back to the house. Who wins the game? The house wins the game. That house is the bank and the lenders. So here's how I used it for equity invoice contracts. So for equity invoice contracts, with valuing hard work first, I then traced the exact steps, the pains that I had journeyed through my decades of pains throughout the industry in this game, so that all of you wouldn't have to. And I wrote this in a simple contract, the same contract structures that the banks and lenders use. Now I give to everyone else, which fundamentally takes a portion of some kind of hard work, the lower the better, and amplifies and leverages it to equity. You can see this gives more equity to the people who put the hard work in, not the banks. Because we know if it takes hard work to build something valuable, then you can't build anything valuable without hard work, period. It's really that simple sometimes. And yes, those banks still have to put in some type of hard work for their contract structure. Capital. And that capital was hard work of going around and collecting it out of everyone's bank accounts. So I made sure to structure all of that and to be valued first. And it converts that cash into equity, which from every industry, I have actually built something in. Meaning that without me going through every industry in this game, I wouldn't be able to build this structure that works with every industry in the game to be able to convert cash into equity as an invoice payment. Are you guys seeing how I structured it? The hard work I experienced in this game, I've restructured and put it all back into maximizing leverage for you guys to use in one structure. So all the hard work of banks figuring out their contracts to figure out how to use their system and structure in the game has been replicated for this and is now given to you guys instead of gate kept as a bank and used as a bank model to scale and build real estate wealth. And this is why, AKA, there's proof that this stuff works. And that's how I used it for equity invoice contracts. And here's where you guys can use it today. Here are some examples of how it uses today. Holding contractors' quality to self-accountable pricing systems makes that structure more solid and better than our current structures of HELOCs and home equity agreements. Unlocking equity in any property for construction work. Now, any property is available for this and it doesn't rely on any homeowner. Residential, commercial, land, any real estate property with equity or future equity is available for this contract. And it's keeping capital in everyone's pocket while still leveraging and maximizing for equity. I'm gonna have to take pause here. I'm gonna have to reset the camera again. Text on a fritz. So the best part of this is that if you know what you're doing, you can immediately start using this contract to maximize your leverage. It is one of the fastest and the newest ways to build real estate wealth with equity, especially if you're like I was multiple times, starting from the bottom with zero resources. They work even if you have no idea what construction quality is or not. It's built into the system. And you can start with as little as $1 today. And you can scale as much equity as you want to build. For example, today, a single dollar spent on construction can be saved and used for leveraging purchasing another property. And you can see here's the average price per square foot for renovations. So if you can save anywhere between $20,000 to $100,000, imagine how much you can leverage that 10% for all these other properties. So a lot of people try and make this game sound complicated. It is not. They only make it sound complicated because they don't understand it well enough to explain it simply to others. And this is what I'm here to do to everyone. Because once you understand it, it becomes easier than you think. So that pretty much what I did for a while, and I kept putting hard work into the right structures to leverage the most equity, isn't a secret. It's a long time structure in the game. And that's pretty much what you see in real estate education today. Real estate with no money, creative financing, invest in real estate, no money or credit, buy rentals anywhere, real estate investing for dummies, real estate investing made simple. And that's when I started scaling from a couple properties at a time to 6 properties at a time when everything was going really right using hard money. Then something terribly happened wrong, fast. So I was forced to learn a new way to leverage hard work for equity besides hard money, which brings us to our third player of the game, the realtor. So we're going to go over the realtor's path to wealth. And here's how I learned it. And I'm not an agent, but I've dealt with many agents in the game. And I can tell you this is how the game works. So whoosh, it's 2023 last year. I now scaled over $850,000 in equity using all the same fundamentals I discussed so far, leveraging capital and hard work for more equity. But all of a sudden, COVID's corrections finally start hitting the market. It was in 2019. It was in 2020. It was in 2021. It was in 2022 as the lenders keep going up and down what they want to lend out. It wasn't until about 2023 until a lot of markets started finally correcting. And 100% of my properties were in 6 to 12 months financing structures, hard money. So here's what happened. June 2023, list prices. This was as a portfolio. Total 2.32 million. 1 month later, July, 2.24 million. 33% of all of my property's value dropped in 1 year. Meaning that the already built-in structure of the 70-30% margins in the industry in the game was gone. Investors were scared. Employees were scared. My real estate wealth structure was failing. The world I had thought that I could build real estate wealth in. Somehow, I still had to figure out a way to still sell these properties as late interest started digging a hole deeper than the assets can cover. And I'm not sure what to do. Now, during all of this, I had already sought help, 7 different listing agents to be exact. And here's the consulting services I got. Marketing 101, the 3 P's of anything you're selling: price, product, and promotion. The good old generic drop the price. Tried that, you saw it. From 850 in equity down to 0. The product. I had seen COVID coming. I knew the corrections were coming. I knew these properties needed to get on the market, needed to get priced and get out of my assets because these were on 6 to 12 months. I couldn't get stuck past those timelines. So we try to sell them with the touch-ups they needed, $5,000 to $10,000. Here's a credit. Here's double to triple seller concessions, whether you want to do fix up touch-ups yourself or use it for these interest rates that were climbing at the time. The last thing on the product was the bad location. Some of these did not have good neighbors. That I could not touch at the time. But for the too many touch-ups, all the touch-ups got done at this time. So that controllable was gone. So we were left down to promotions. Again, I went through 7 agents. So I tried figuring out if agents weren't doing their job right. And we'll get into this part. So I did the only thing I could do, which was focus on those controllables, which was the bad locations and the neighbors. This was the first step. But I was back at square one. No capital or resources besides just my hard work. And one day I was blessed with an idea. And sometimes these just come to you. And this was it. And it read like this. First, to preface this, I needed to figure out how to fix up these neighbors' properties to look better so that my property sells. Yet, knowing I don't have the resources or the time, even my hard work, to put out there, that I knew that I was going to get something back from it. A lot of contractors' mindsets. So this was the concept of some kind of offer that I can make sure that the communication on this was so on point that he said yes, no matter what. I had no room for him to say no or second guess or start another conversation about. So this was my one pitch, one offer, one shot, AKA my $100 million offer to him. Neighbor's property needs updating and repairs. Well, we'll do it for $0. No down payments, no credit, no income. We just want some equity. Instead of acquisitioning businesses at zero cost, businesses meaning properties, acquire real estate at zero cost. Besides upfront labor costs, if needed, which I did the calculation at the time, if you were going to run this as a full business, you could run a whole single crew with around 80K a year. And around that 80K a year, you just had the material part that you could, again, get homeowners to pay for, which a lot of contractors are already used to this. So at most, this would have been a 30-year investment for the contractor and attached to the first lien in the mortgage term, whichever was less. And if the mortgage then picked a 30-year term or less, the equity would have got paid out whenever the property got retransferred, just like the mortgage lien note would have. Just stumbling in there, you can see that this can disrupt the wholesaling market, which is maybe over some people's head, but the wholesaling market is kind of like real estate agents, just without the license, and they just do it through a different structure. Instead of a NAR contract structure, they do it through a purchase contract structure. So this can disrupt the wholesaling market while feeding off its untapped easy market of homeowners that always want to keep their property because they don't want to miss out on their equity potential. They know the structure that they have of real estate, that leverage asset of real estate that they don't want to let go of, yet wholesalers make their value and profit of taking it from them and fixing their need of getting rid of it. So back on track. I had already exhausted every creative financing way possible, and that's why I had brought this up. I had already figured out HELOCs wasn't going to work. I figured out a home equity agreement wasn't going to work because the equity wasn't already there. Hard money wasn't going to work because my property was already sitting on the hard money loan, and people were going to try to use that for the comp for it. So that was the story. I did my $100 million offer, and with not knowing what the homeowner has for leverage to use with their real estate also, it was a no-brainer that it was a $100 million offer that I needed for him. I knew a sub-2 contract was another advanced real estate structure you can use in the game. It wasn't going to work because I didn't know his current situation, and I didn't want to risk the communications of a second or third conversation. I had one shot. So I knew I had that controllable solved. So I went into the second controllable to try to figure out. And here's the conversation I had with one of these agents. Me, knowing marketing as a business owner and trying to figure out why 7 agents can't figure out why this asset can't get sold. This was it. The blue was me. I built up a large email list of publicly registered investors. Can you send me the listings with all of them in it and an email template to send to them? If you have a chain of email of templates for an email automation, I'll automate those two on my side, taking the hard work off of her plate and putting the hard work on my plate. She said, I can send you the listings, but I don't have a template. I do it all individually or through the MLS. Meaning one-on-one, very time consuming. I get it. We used to do paper and whatnot and didn't have emails and stuff, but this is 2020. And this is just one agent and one aspect of marketing. What I think I am hearing is that there is currently isn't a scalable email automation to send out 1,000+ emails a day, and that you're doing this all by hand. And that the listings with all of these properties to be sold as a portfolio has not been created. Meaning I had multiple properties that weren't being put into one listing package and pushed out as, hey, buy a portfolio instead of buy individuals. She says, I have all the options to send each listing out to agents and have a client looking for anything like it. I send each listing out like that once a week through the reversed search. Reversed search. This sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, emails are being targeted and sent to agents and not buyers. I understand agents control 90% of the housing market. Do we think that these houses buyers, these being investment houses, Airbnbs at 17 to 19% cap rates at 80% occupancy, another reason I knew it wasn't a product issue. Do we think that these buyers are in the 90% agent used market or in the 10% who don't need agents and don't use the MLS system, but use it for the services that they need at limited times? This was her response. They were sent to the agents. This is correct. And agents that had buyers, and you are right, 95% of buyers use agents. So that is the targeting I am doing through the MLS. This, you can see how one agent's doing this. And I had this issue with 6 other agents, not with just emails, but every other little marketing thing. And it's not just how you market it, but the structure they're using to market it. They're using the MLS as their leverage point, but now they're funneling everything of their marketing through that instead of trying to go outside that system and ecosystem, especially for properties that the buyers aren't in that ecosystem. And we had already had this conversation, and I had already gotten this response from the agent. Please let me do my job. I've been doing real estate successfully for almost 20 years. You have to trust me on this, agent. When it's too complicated for someone to re-explain to someone else, it means that they don't know what they're talking about. Because most of the times, it's as simple to repeat whatever understanding you have if you actually understand it. Not saying they're not successful. 20 years, 100% successful. Just real marketing fundamentals 101 is not that. I'm telling you, you can go say copy. What is copy to an agent? And usually they'll go to the printer instead of talking about language and communications. So over the decades interacting with agents and my understanding of marketing, this is what I had gathered from what most realtors in our game and their scope of what marketing is. The MLS, multiple listing service, 100%. That's their job, their business. That's their job security. It's an ecosystem of marketing properties on a website that only those members are allowed to post in. Emails. Emails are only inside the MLS to members of that MLS with buyers looking for whatever property you have. Their ad budget. Listing photographs, ads to collect the buyer leads that match the target buyer, or what the system's known as purchasing leads, which leads may buy your property or may just go with the agent's other properties. which gives no cost or no cost lost to the agent. He recycles that lead into the next property. Now, I noticed a little issue there and a little unconnected value perception there of, hey, you're spending ad budget to go actually create leads of whatever properties you have, not specifically to my property. I need some specifics since my properties seem to be specific to not the 90% of the market. So from Marketing 101, the only 4 ways to market anything, the fundamentals, the simples, and if you understand this, someone can easily tell you this, and this comes from Alex Hormozi, $100 million leads, are the core 4 ways. One-to-one, one-to-many, and warm outreach and cold outreach. People you know, people you don't know. A lot of them we're doing one-to-one warm, which is agent to agent, and one-to-many on the public free post content, but not actually knowing marketing structures of how to actually do marketing. And on the ad side, they weren't actually putting ads budget to sellers specific property. They're putting it into their whole system to collect buyer leads instead of collect actual buyers for my specific property. And a lot of people try to make marketing sound complicated again. It is not. An agent is going to make it sound complicated. 1 or 2 reasons. They don't simply understand it, or 2, they need some job security. That's it. The only way it sounds complicated is because they don't understand it well enough yet to explain it. That simple. So also like real estate commissions, this is a basic marketing 101, how do you actually perceive value and price value in a marketplace. So this is the value equation. You got your dream outcome times your perceived likelihood over your time delay times your effort and sacrifice. That is the value to anything. And this is why it's dependent on the person perceiving the value. Because my effort and sacrifice is going to be different than someone else's effort and sacrifice. And my dream outcome is different than someone else's. So just using these fundamentals, let's look at how a real estate agent's value goes in the game. They say 2 to 3% per side. This year, we see the final fight back on that. So let's say our time delay goes up like mine did. These were sitting on the market longer and longer. I was losing money. Yet their value and hard work stays the same, 2 to 3%. Now let's say my perceived likelihood starts going down because they're sitting on the market longer than the average days, double than the average days. My cost and all my value, the one taking the actual risk, the liability of the property, is all going down. Their value for them stays the same, 2 to 3 per side. Effort and sacrifice. I now have to figure out a way to figure out how to pay bills that aren't getting covered by these assets. I now have to pay for these assets to sit on the market on a longer time as my hopes of anything happening keeps falling. What do their percentages stay? 2 to 3%. And as you can see, this snowballs and snowballs and snowballs, yet 2 to 3% stays on their side as the value of whatever they're providing or claiming they provide starts crashing. And if that starts crashing for their client, shouldn't their commissions start crashing? And this is a lot of times why you see agents, they'll usually cut ties before someone figures this equation out. And usually I can get an agent to quit before their 6-month term because they figured out, hey, I can't fix this value equation and I may not be able to talk my perceived likelihood of achievement. If I can't put my perceived likelihood of achievement through my communications super high, then my value is just going to blow up. Yet, after it blows up, guess what? Still 2 to 3%. And even if it blows up so much that it foreclosed, guess what? Guess who still is out of everything? The homeowner's gone, the investor's gone out. Yet then real estate agents, 2 to 3%, because guess who has to sell it? The agent. And this is how the game works currently. So I saw that wealth through the realtor's contracts were bomb-proof, meaning my current hard money structure that I was using to leverage for real estate wealth that was collapsing in front of my eyes didn't work. And I realized the NAR's contract that even though my whole structure and world collapsed was bomb-proof, and that they still get their wealth with their structure of contract. So here's how I used it for equity invoice contracts. I took the bomb-proof structures that NAR used in their commissions and established in our game system and put it into our equity invoice contracts. And I can go into all the details of how I do this, but we'll just go over the fundamentals of this bomb-proof of real estate agents always getting paid even if the house goes upside down is the same bomb-proof for contractors to get paid even if the house gets flipped upside down, minusing this commission culture. So this is actually a more advanced leveraging technique. This requires less hard work because you already have built up abstract hard work of knowledge built into the contract for you. So you don't even need the knowledge. The knowledge is already in the contract. So here's how you guys can use it today. You can become a WealthTradie licensed agent master. We're not going to get into this today, but just imagine the same services and capabilities an agent or a wholesaler has, a WealthTradie master has for equity invoice contract. And anyone can do it that wants to play the real estate game. Imagine playing Monopoly and you never buy any assets to produce more money. So you're just collecting $200 from pass and go. This is how most people live their life. And even agents on some level still have to do this with their NAR contract because they get paid an ordinary income and not capital gains. And you can start collecting equity with actually $0 today. All you need is hard work, a good structure to leverage on, a contractor and a homeowner for that structure to get your leverage equity. And you can scale this one all the way up because you can use other people's assets plus a bomb-proof structure to get equity. And this is an advanced level for WealthTradie Masters that we'll get into later. And the best part is you get to pick who you reach out to, aka you get to pick your team that you work with to play in the game. So you can make sure you only reach out to the highest quality, highest value targets. For example, if you only want to reach out to homeowners who are looking to sell within a year or two to reap the benefits of long-term capital gains, you can do that. As a fun fact, capital gains tax is much lower than ordinary income. And you can see the difference on these two. We don't have much time here, so pause and on the replay and come back to this. In a game where normally you would stack capital gains on top of ordinary income also, you can now plan and exchange it out instead of stacking it on top, reducing your tax bills and your tax plan. And that's how you can know how powerful this is because Uncle Sam approves of it. And now that we know the key players in the real world Monopoly game, contractor, homeowner, realtor, investor, and a WealthTradie master, we know that there are only 4 structures that you can leverage hard work for real estate wealth. The contractor, he can leverage his construction hard work for equity. The homeowner, they can leverage their hard work with their real estate asset as their leverage for more equity, advancing what it is. Realtors, they currently leverage their exclusive NAR contract for commissions inside the game. This again is not real estate wealth. If you see these fundamentals and know that equity is wealth, cash is not wealth, even though you can play this game and rack up a lot of cash, not wealth. Investors, they leverage hard work for equity, whether that's their own hard work and their own capital or their hard work plus lenders structure to maximize their leverage for equity. And now a WealthTradie master can also leverage an exclusive contract like a realtor for equity. Are there other ways to build real estate wealth? The answer is yes and no. You on your own can build wealth by yourself. It takes a lot of built up hard work, aka capital. From fundamentals, all you need from our hard work to leverage is real estate. You take your money, You purchase your structure, which is real estate, and then you start using that structure as your leverage point for your money. And now you have a system to leverage your money in a leverage point structure for more equity. So for example, hard work you already have done and converted into cash to leverage, hard work someone else has already done and gifted you to leverage, hard work built from a property that is then gifted you to leverage, aka you need hard work to leverage. So it's doable, buy your own, but it's not very efficient. Some of you may be wondering why. Because of the leverage point, the structure that you can maximize your leverage. And so the most efficient way to build wealth is to use the right structure as a team to beat the game, meaning the players. Using the right structures plus the right players complete the game. Let me explain. It takes at least 2 players to use this structure. You need a homeowner and a licensee, or a homeowner and a contractor or a licensee. From here, we can take this contract and start entering the game, aka a homeowner and a contractor. These guys can use this to leverage it, and now a contractor can get into the game because now they have a way to get equity. Let's look at this. An investor and a contractor can do the same situation and push a contractor into equity into the game. Now, for the real estate agents, they can also go find a contractor, use them, connect them with the homeowner that's already on the board to get them into the game and get equity. The issue is that an agent does not have a WealthTradie master license. They can contact us and they will be automatically approved. We'll register them since they already have the training and licensing on their skill level. But until then, they do not collect equity, yet they still reap the reward of taking a contractor that uses equity instead of cash, because there's plenty of homeowners out there that need renovations done right before they list a property. And this is why an agent is going to push a contractor into the game instead of even jumping into the game themselves. An agent becomes a WealthTradie master and they can get into the game and start actually collecting equity instead of commission. And now let's look at if an agent is a WealthTradie master that knows all this knowledge and brings the contract to the homeowner and the contractor, and now they all 3 get into the game. And this is the different ways you can build different teams and play the game. The fundamental is that working as a team completes this structure so that you can leverage it for more equity. And I can explain the insane power of leveraging hard work with good structures with one simple comparison. On one hand, you can leverage hard work to get equity through the current real estate. Money put into equity, it appreciates and depreciates, and also the trifecta, cash flow. This means you have to have a high workload, your leverage is minimum, and your wealth is low. On the other hand, you can get one other player to play with you with equity invoice contracts to use as the leverage point to build equity. Your work is very low just because you're splitting up the teamwork and the contract you're using. The leverage is the highest. I am telling you, 2024, this is the most updated and most powerful contract in the game today, which ends you with, if not the highest, a very high wealth equity. In other words, in the second scenario, you work way less and build more equity. And that's the insane power and the structure of home equity invoice agreements. Once you know how to use it, you can build as much equity as you darn well please without scaling limitations. It's how I myself generated equity. All ordinary income is spent on marketing and education. Home equity invoice agreements are to unlock equity for everyone. And this is for proof, meaning that anything I sell you guys on here today does not go to my wealth. It gets redistributed back into spreading this mission and message so that everyone can unlock and play this game with home equity invoice contracts. The only wealth that I get is just as a WealthTradie master does, just as an agent does, in this game, in this system. This is how it's done. This one sentence and paragraph, a transaction fee. The transaction fee is 0.25% of a property transaction price payable to WealthTradie, a liaison, for the use of the documents and the structure provided in this agreement. meaning the agreement is copyrighted and trademarked. And that's leverage, being able to put in the minimal effort from the maximum amount of reward. And that's how you build real estate wealth. And I don't know if I have the time to explain how to maximize home equity agreements, leverages in full detail today, but let me at least give you the gist. You don't build equity alone. You work together to build equity as a team. Then the home equity agreement leverages your hard work for you at the maximum leverage. Let me give you some examples. So first and simplest, you have a homeowner and a contractor. Real quick, who here is a homeowner that could use renovations on their property if they paid in future equity instead of cash? Drop a home in the chat. Again, if you want renovations and don't want to pay any cash out of your pocket and are a homeowner, drop a home in the chat. Great. There's one willing player right there. Then you have a contractor, which is WealthTradie's first avatar, my first career. Real quick, who here is a contractor that wants to be paid for the equity that they have already built in a physical product? Drop a skill in the chat. Again, if you're a contractor that wants to start getting paid with wealth instead of cash, drop a skill in the chat. Great. This team stuff works. These two players need to work as team. Then you got investors who, like homeowners, can scale faster with keeping more cash liquid in your own pocket. If you're an investor, drop invest in the chat. Again, if you're an investor, drop invest in the chat, meaning you want to scale as fast as possible. Because that's the hard work needed to leverage the banking structures currently. You're already doing it as an investor. Now it's time to maximize it. So real quick, who here are realtors? In the chat, drop agent. These agents, if you have a homeowner that needs renovations before listing, yet don't have a contractor that is able to push their invoice to closing a month out, 2 months out, 3 months out, drop an agent in the chat. Great. That's how you know this stuff works. Teamwork. You already see homeowners have a need. Contractors have a need. Those both needs fulfill each other. The issue is though that they didn't have a tool to get those teamworks working together. Now they do. And here you can see some of the different teams. Lastly, you've got WealthTradie masters who build the teams to go and build equity for themselves, like realtors and wholesalers. If this all makes sense to you, drop a wealth in the chat. If leveraging equity invoice contracts to scale and build wealth as maximum as possible, drop a wealth in the chat. Great. That's how you know it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Home equity invoice agreements. And the result of using home equity invoice agreements in real estate is proof how anyone can unlock real estate equity without any banks or lenders to do renovations. And that's how you can know this stuff works and it'll work for you. Okay, so far in this presentation, we've covered you build more wealth when you have leverage efficient structures. When you double your equity, you double your wealth. There are 5 key players in the game: contractor, homeowner, realtor, investor, WealthTradie master. We talked about the home equity agreement. Why this agreement is the most efficient, because it's bomb-proof contract for everyone to get their equity they deserve. We covered the homeowner needs, being able to use their current asset to leverage building more equity without capital restraints. We covered contractors' needs, being able to build equity while building the actual physical buildings, building wealth while building. The investor needs, being able to scale faster and more efficient than ever before. How agents need to die. Use current skills to bring value to homeowners in the game. Sorry, we'll take that out there. How agents need to use their current skills to bring value to homeowners in the game. Real value that lasts if it changes. The best agent for the game, WealthTradie Master. Building teams to build equity without banks or lenders. What teams can use equity invoice agreements? That's what we just went over. And that's how you can know this stuff works and it'll work for you. Who's the skill owner? Who's the homeowner? Who's the agent? Who's the WealthTradie Master? drop it in the comments, and connect. After all, contractors already do hard work without building any wealth. Homeowners already have equity in properties currently in or in the future of their property. Investors need most secure contract to scale. Realtors already have the contract skills to connect these teams together, and anyone can become a wealth trading master to build equity with no capital. Can you see how the real world Monopoly game can be played at the highest levels by anyone? Can you see how learning to use home equity invoices agreements can leverage all of the players' hard work? Can you see how less of an effort you put into a structure, the more scalable it is for your real estate wealth? In short, can you see why home equity invoice agreements, aka a proper contract structure, is a structure worth having? And this structure may just be the bridge between where you are and wherever you want to be, because I know it has been for me in the many different levels it's been in. So great. Now, here's what I know. Even if we had a full day together, instead of just 90 minutes, which we've already gone over, it's going to be hard, almost impossible to give you all that I could give you about home equity invoice agreements. No matter how good anyone is, one 90-minute presentation isn't going to change anyone's life anyways. You need more than that. That's just how communications work. And while everything I've been giving you today is valuable, it's just the tip of the iceberg. And if you like what I've shared with you so far, you'll love what I got for you next. You see, before doing this presentation today, which has taken me the last 6 days of 12 hours a day just to do these slides for you, I was faced with two choices. The first option is part ways with you and hope that on your own you can figure all this out with the structure. Go alone. Or my second option, I could take a more active role and responsibility for your success to create a win-win situation to push our mission together and change the game, aka go together. As you can imagine, I chose the second option, to go together. The result of this, working 12 to 14 hours a day for the last 3 months straight. And as you can see this, I've been open up for almost the last 24 hours just trying to finish this presentation for you guys. This is a timestamp of just last night, and you can see just at the 380 slide mark. And I think currently there's a 500 plus slide mark on this slideshow. I'm trying to pack as much valuable into this as give it to you guys as possible. So everything I know from leveraging $0 into over $3 million in real estate assets, everything I know about leveraging hard work from 3 decades of experiences in multiple industries. And so it is a great pleasure for me to introduce to you guys WealthTradie Pro Training. With this training, you'll wield all 5 players' full manuals as a pro in building wealth, leveraging whichever hard work suits your player with the structures that the banks and the lenders don't want you to have, because it's better than the NAR's bomb-proof contract. So here's what you're going to get. And this is where it gets a little bananas, so buckle up. Everyone knows the free parking, right? All is fair in Monopoly, house rules, right? If you're someone who doesn't get enough leverage for their equity, hard work, or have clients that are property rich but cash poor, or people don't trust your pricing of quality enough to buy, or you just don't provide enough value, and this is a contractor's value, 20 to 30% markups plus almost double on their material side. This is current pricing in the construction industry, another reason why we're fixing this. Then this is for you, so pay attention. Freaky fast wealth targeting. Now you might be wondering, what does that even mean? Wealth, being real estate equity, as we just discovered, can be simply targeted once you know what to look for. There is more reason to look and target the root of real estate, the contracts, than the real estate properties itself. This training highlights the current industry players that control those contracts, that have pains and needs to be targeted and served, resulting in building your wealth equity faster than the banks currently do. Here's how I'll make you wealth. Let's say you're a contractor. Before, you could only be paid in cash. There was no need for contractors to know properties values. They don't even know what equity was. Now with home equity invoice agreements, contractors need to know what property values are if they want wealth. And this again will also help fix our construction industry pricing. When you target existing structures in the game that need services too, you can solve this the right way and double, 5x, sometimes 10x the amount of clients you can serve while they serve you. Meaning before, someone pays a real estate agent a CMA for an appraisal to get a value of a property. Now, with this system, this structure in the game, we've revamped real estate agent skills, and now someone can use a realtor to do a CMA for a property's listing agreement and get it paid for them. Meaning how contractors do free estimates can now get agents to do free estimates on CMAs. Why? Because contractors have a service and a need for the realtor's client, the homeowner. So if the contractor fulfills the realtor's need of providing renovations without any cash for their client homeowner, real estate agents happily ready to give a free estimate of their skill, of their industry to a contractor and a homeowner so that they can get the listing and get it on the property and get their normal path to wealth rolling. To show you how powerful this is, I personally have never paid for a CMA in my entire career because I knew where to target and apply leverage in the game. The same leverage and the same targets where you're going to apply it to fulfill the needs of other people to get stuff done for you. Not just for contractors either, but how every player can target one another to reap the benefits of each other's industries, aka homeowners currently using real estate agents, or homeowners using a WealthTradie master to leverage equity invoice contracts, or investors using agents, or an agent becoming a WealthTradie master, or a WealthTradie master becoming an investor. It goes on and on. Well, how much does this actually make you guys? So just looking at the small portion of just CMAs and what they normally cost, to get the training on a CMA, this is what a real estate agent costs. $130 for the course, and then an application fee of $180. And then now they're qualified to go give a CMA or values on our property. Blew the secret open. So anyone who's fully knows these targeting methods can see the difference clearly and why a $0 CMA and a $10 CMA makes sense. Yeah, if you get up to $100 CMA, you may want to start questioning that agent and their ethics. So you could say this, it works. And here's the WealthTradie's freaky fast wealth charting trading and what it'll show you how to do. Step 1, figure out how the best problem to solve the homeowner that home equity invoice agreement solves. Step 2, figure out what investors need. Step 3, fulfill realtor needs to get provided what you. Step 3, fulfill realtors' needs to get provided what you need. Step 4, use wholesalers networks. Step 5, how to serve the market with value. So for you, do you think you could at least find one thing valuable to use tonight? For me, these secrets cost me 5 years of learning the different industries in the game. A very hard, slow, and expensive, no capital, no resource way. But I want to save you the 5 years of trial and error and all the money it took me to learn this, and give it to you the fast, cheap, and easy way. Is that okay? This is so valuable, you could literally do nothing else I show you. Just use these freaky fast wealth targeting methods and double your clients tomorrow for each player, which I value today at only a fraction of my investment, the time and money, at $1,000, $897. So here's what you're going to get today, guys. You're going to get the freaky fast wealth targeting system at $1,897. Value. This is what I value it as. Now, if you haven't started your apprenticeship yet, meaning that if you click on the wealthtradie.com link, make sure you hit the registration, because at the end of this, we're going to take the live attendees that will get the bonuses at the end. The apprentices are on that. It's the VIP seats for this live event. Sign up, you'll get your apprenticeship. And at the end of this, even the apprentices will get something a little extra. So if you haven't yet, go sign up now. If you want to start a side hustle, or you're just about to start a construction project, or you have no equity currently available in your property, then this is for you. Pay attention. The WealthTradie Apprenticeship. Here's how it'll make you wealthy. Let's say you want to get equity for the real $0 budget. You're going to want a deal so good people feel stupid saying no, $100 million offer. You're going to want to increase your value so much that they cannot say no. And the WealthTradie's home equity invoice agreement increases these benefits for every player playing. If you need to get equity, this is the fastest, the cheapest, and the most certain way to get it. Using home equity invoice agreements is the right way, will get you the first bit of equity you need to find your purpose. Again, start traveling and start the new business. In fact, a homeowner can use a home equity invoice agreement to team up directly with the contractor to build equity into their existing home, even if their home currently has no equity in it. A new homeowner that just purchased at full appraisal value can now still push equity into their property with a fraction of the hard work, aka money, needed or credit. Then they can take that equity to leverage for another property using their current lending structures in the industry, the game. Then you can take that property and push more equity into it with an equity invoice contract. Then you can use some of more of the advanced stuff, which I'll have to show you in a second again, to build equity with even more leverage and less effort. The best part is WealthTradie Apprenticeship works as long as you put in the hard work. Here's what it'll show you how to do. Step one, fill out a home equity invoice agreement. Step two, it'll show you how to use a wealth multiplier calculator. Step three, it'll show you the benefits of the community. Step four, it will show you how to unlock equity without banks or lenders. And step five, become a listed WealthTradie contractor who has successfully completed at least one home equity invoice agreement in the real world game. Now, exclusively a list only members are tied to that many players in the game need. More than 90% of the players in the market need. This is a brick by brick, the exact structure I created to make equity accessible for everyone. This system cost me 5 years of investing pains, and I lost 2 years of income to figure it out. But I wanted to save you these 3 decades it took me to figure out and just give you the shortcut, the AKA fun way, so you can start tomorrow. For many of you here today, this is the only thing you need to build equity and start to travel the world. Even though being able to depend on a structure to pursue your dream is priceless, to make sure that you can actually get started, I value WealthTradie Apprenticeship at only a fraction of my investment, the time and money made to bake this cookie. $2,737. So here's what you get today. You get the Freaky Fast Wealth Targeting Module, $1,897 value. You get the WealthTradie Apprenticeship, $2,737 value, a total value of $4,634 today. Now, I want to talk to someone else in the audience. If you're someone who wants to build wealth exponentially, or you want to add boatloads of time back to your business, or you see how much you can save on taxes, then I made this for you. Wealth Multiplier Calculator. Here's how multiplying the right way makes you wealth. It calculates the available equity in your current property. It guarantees accuracy of your calculations, and it shows you the current numbers for your tax planning. So let's say you use a home equity invoice agreement. You'll have something to look at to trust yourself to scale faster. Not only does this leverage your money and hard work more, it is bomb-proof with the quality that it requires contractors to now produce through good structures of pain and motivation of incentivizing equity instead of cash. For many of you, it can cut taxes in half while appreciating your capital. And pause the video afterwards and look at this example or go play with it. It's a plug and play. And here's what the Wealth Multiplier Calculator will show you how to do. 1, calculate property's equity. 2, exchange monetary invoice totals into property equity percentages. 3, compare ordinary income taxes versus capital gain taxes. 4, show the difference in how much the same amount of equity changes over a given time frame if that property appreciates or depreciates. Meaning, if my equity is tied to this, if the market goes up or down, what is my equity worth? This will show you the exact system I use to go from here to here. Double the reward with the same amount of hard work. And you can see, normally I would have only made $3,900. Now I can make $6,384 if I maximize my leverage with the home equity invoice agreement. And it took me almost a decade of real estate investing to figure this out. And $588 per year for someone else to build and maintain the actual software of that calculator. And I'm not going to ask for you for a decade of a life's worth, fraction of $5,880. I'm going to hand you the keys. This is literally what built my bomb-proof contract. My most valuable asset is going to be given in your hands within seconds. And it could only help you build wealth too, which I value today at 1,000th of my investment, time and money at just $270. So here's what you get today. You get the freaky fast wealth targeting, $1,897 value. You get the WealthTradie apprenticeship at $2,737. You get the wealth multiplier calculator at $270 value. A total value of $4,904. And if you just get the WealthTradie apprenticeship, the wealth multiplier calculator is already included in the membership. Now, let's say you're in the opposite situation and you already are a top-notch investor and you already know how to leverage good structure to build wealth like banks. Or you hate the constant changing cash in your accounts, but you still are property rich and cash poor. You still want to consistently scale. Then I made this for you. Home equity invoice agreements. The reason we're here today. Here's why it's important and so awesome. You don't need to be a top-notch investor to use it. Yet it is a top-notch investor structure. By far, the most powerful structure to handle the amount of leverage banks use. The only structure that allows you to scale while keeping your liquids in your pocket. It puts the speed and the control back into your hands. If you do enough volume, it's incredibly reliable for self-accountability for contractors. In short, once you have it going, you become very hard to stop because you don't have a limitation on capital in your pocket. I already told you, this structure's fundamentals have been worth millions to me. Getting this scaling method can double your wealth. And now I exclusively use it to grow my wealth reliably and sustainably. At very least, once you implement it, you sleep well at night knowing contractors are incentivized and held accountable for the quality of work they put out. In fact, using the same traditional structures of leveraging the bank's capital and a real estate asset to continue the process, just implementing a home equity invoice agreement into that system unlocks your capital now instead of later. Meaning, instead of waiting until all those properties finish at the 500,000 mark where I get my capital back and I can go re-leverage it, I can now leverage it instantly as long as I have a contractor ready to do the work, allowing you to repeat the process now and not later. And here's what home equity agreements will show you how to do. Step 1, cultivate a self-accountable quality control structure that works. Step 2, sustainably scale without liquid capital constraints. Step 3, record public documents yourself without the needs of title attorneys. In fact, this is the exact issue in the construction industry we saw as we scaled during COVID. As a flipping investor, watching $850,000 in equity drop down to zero. So if it was the missing link for us then, it can certainly work for you now, no matter the economic conditions, because contractors need their work tied to quality. For me, this structure cost me thousands of dollars to have attorneys draft. Priceless lessons learned through experiences over 3 decades worth in multiple industries to figure out the painful way. But I want to save you 3 decades of trial and error and hundreds and thousands of dollars it took me to learn this and just give it to you, the winning lotto numbers. You just have to cash it in with the hard work. You can literally ignore everything else I just taught you today and use this to figure out the real estate game, to make money, and never worry about where your next disaster will ever come from next, which would be a life-changing for you. But I value it today at thousands of a fraction of my investment, my time and money, at just $3,714. So here's what everyone's getting today. Freaky fast wealth trading targeting, $1,897 value. WealthTradie apprenticeship, $2,737 value. Wealth multiplier calculator, $270 value, which again is in the apprenticeship if you just get the apprenticeship. Equity invoice contracts, $3,714 value, which also brings it up to a total of $8,618 is in the WealthTradie apprenticeship. Our last feature is our WealthTradie master, which we're not going to get into today, but this total value is $8,618 for everything you can get today. No matter which community chest card you choose to pick today, you'll have all of these cards and players. And if you wanted to use them more than once, which I recommend, you might be wondering, how do I know which card to use and in which order? Which is why I created WealthTradie's Pro Training course. Think of it like the roadmap that tells you when to use the community chess cards and how to play as a team. It breaks down the 7 layers of building real estate wealth and scaling, which will show you exactly which card to play and how to. for your player and your teammate. So right now, today, and rather than going into detail of each layer of this, why don't I just show you what looks like when you maximize every card and player? And this is what I hope I have showed you today, that this map has taken me over 3 decades to get here and cost me every mistake I've made. If you ignored everything else today and simply got clarity on what you should be doing next to grow, it would cover the entire investment, which is why I think it's fair to value at just $3,714. So here's what everyone's getting today. Freaky Fast Wealth Targeting, $1,897 value. WealthTradie Apprenticeship, $2,737 value. WealthTradie Multiplier Calculator, $270 value inside the WealthTradie membership. The Equity Invoice Contract, $3,714 value. The main structure and leverage of the whole system. Also inside the WealthTradie Apprenticeship. And you get all of this of the roadmap of how to use all of these pieces together for $3,714 is what I value it as. Meaning that all of this today, even though the total value is $12,332, these structures, roadmaps are more valuable than the masterminds that sell for $25,000, $50,000, even $100,000 from the goobers who have never done it and have never been through the pains that I have gone through. And will give you hilariously more value than a $100,000 4 to 8 year degree would. So if I were to price this at what's truly worth, I wouldn't have any issue asking anyone to invest $100,000 for a structure you can use the rest of your life, exponentially scale just like a bank. And before I tell you the price, let me explain or ask you a question. How much is double your real estate worth to you? An extra $10,000 a year? An extra $50,000 a year? An extra $100,000 a year? An extra $1 million a year? An extra $2 million a year? Hold that number in your head. If you knew beyond a shadow of doubt it would happen, wouldn't it be worth at least that much? And that's why WealthTradie Pro Training and Membership is a bargain at just $12,332. It's a bargain at $3,714. And yet, the best part is you only invest once, but get to keep it for the rest of your life to use these structures in the map and let other players use it, which is why skills and knowledge are the best investment in the game of life, which is also why you rather have $3,714 versus your dreams, which is why this may be the best thing I've ever given back, and not even at $2,714. And I want this to be the most affordable for everyone, but still an investment. I'm not going to ask for $12,332. I'm not going to ask for $3,714. I'm not going to ask for $2,714. I'm not even going to ask for $270. Today, all the live attendees on this current channel, which we're going to timestamp at 6:15, is getting this for $0. How, may you ask? If you're already a WealthTradie apprenticeship, i.e. a VIP ticket to this live event, you're going to be upgraded free of charge to the WealthTradie Pro membership, aka the training, the roadmap, the manual to the game. If you're just a live attendee, you're going to get the WealthTradie apprenticeship and everything in it, you know, that $8,618 value for free. Free parking, house rules. I want to make sure that when I tell people to show up, they show up. And again, when I tell people to stay to the end, I mean stay to the end. More than a gift card, less than a Tesla. If you're just joining us, $8,618 is what I'm giving to every single person here. And even that is a steal of a value at what that it currently is at. For everyone else that is currently already a WealthTradie apprentice and is in the live event today, the $12,332 value for $0. All I ask that everyone today and everyone later on spread this so that the next event that we host, that everyone can come together to spread this mission and spread this knowledge. I'm not here to gatekeep this power. I'm here to let everyone use it as much as possible so that everyone else can avoid the pains that I've had to endure through this industry and this game. So I know we've taken a lot of time on this, and I've tried to cut it as short as possible. We couldn't get into the WealthTradie Masters. We'll get on that next after I finish this slideshow. This again is all going to get replayed. It'll be a live replay for everyone to rewatch and pause and look at these numbers, redigest everything that may be getting passed by because the language, perspective, or the knowledge on the industry may just be not in your player's perspective. Otherwise, pick up what you have today. I hope this at least gave you some kind of value today. And I kept my promise from the beginning, promised you guys that this is a way you can 100% amplify your real estate wealth and do renovations inside this game with zero money. You just need a good structure, someone willing to do the hard work, and the teamwork, the players, a homeowner, a contractor, an agent and a homeowner, a contractor and agent, an investor and a contractor. We need to start working together instead of staying divided in these industries. And this contract is that bridge and that gap to do that. I could keep it on a bank and finance kind of model business structure. I'm not. I want to give this to everyone and see everyone start using this and see how fast this game starts getting played by not just 90% of the market getting held up by realtors, but that 10% growing to 50% and see where not just our real estate goes, but our economic and our nation goes. So please, guys, if you haven't followed us on our socials, right now we're just big on Instagram, TikTok. We'll start getting some content on there and whatnot. If not, all of this information you guys can start using today. The training and the course will become live Monday. There are 2 other lessons videos that are getting edited right now. Those will get uploaded this weekend and everyone will access Monday. You may not see the link to purchase it yet if you're trying to get on it today. If not, everything you actually need is in the apprenticeship. That is live. That has been live since as soon as we could possibly get that up. As soon as that document it was finalized, it was up. Of course, we couldn't push it out. There was very limited marketing on it, but it got pushed out. It's up there again because our mission is to change this as fast as possible, and hopefully everyone's help with getting into this, helping with the training, helping with the marketing. We can push this out, spread this, and influence this as big as the NAR has influenced this game for everyone. And we'll see where we go. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.